In the fall of 1850, John Edgar Lockwood, a commercial hunter, sailed up the Petaluma Creek in search of wild game needed to satisfy the demand for meat in the burgeoning city of San Francisco. Although General Vallejo had established his Petaluma adobe some 15 years earlier, Lockwood was the first European to settle in the area, and he built one of the first commercial buildings, a butcher's shop, in what is now downtown Petaluma. While a flood of people followed Lockwood almost immediately to take advantage of, quote, the salubrity of the climate and the rare fertility of the soil, end quote. Business relating to agriculture sprang up quickly. The William Zartman Wagon and Carriage Company was soon employing no less than 54 men, a huge employer back in the 1850s. The demand for leather skyrocketed as Petaluma's new tannery required 8,000 hides a year to supply, among other customers, our harness and saddlery shops and countless boot and shoe makers. The Chryslich and Irby Brewery of Petaluma was annually producing 81,000 gallons of beer, which required nearly 900 tons of barley to produce. The livery stables of San Francisco were buying every forkful of hay we could produce. As you can see, there was a great need for farmers to produce livestock, food, and clothing in large quantities to meet local needs, as well as the never-ending clamor of San Franciscans to send more of everything. Now, the single most important factor in Petaluma's early success was the Petaluma River, which until 1959 was known as the Petaluma Creek. The river allowed us to transport huge quantities of goods by boats and barges to markets worldwide. Practically everything that was going to or coming from Sonoma County came through Petaluma, and that held true as well for much of Mendocino, Lake, Napa, and Marin counties. We became the third busiest river port in the entire state and were known to all as the commercial metropolis, if you will, of Sonoma County. In 1858, just 8 short years after John Lockwood first tied up his boat here in Petaluma, Petaluma incorporated and became a city. From that point on, we enjoyed one significant event after another. The very next year, our first public school was constructed, an imposing brick structure on B Street. The same year, the first foundry north of San Francisco opened in Petaluma, and soon big steam engines were straightening the river to make passage to the bay safer and faster. And when the first railroads came to town, while hotels began doing a land office business, because not only was Petaluma the rail and boat terminus, it was also the starting point for the stagecoach line that served Sacramento and points east. It seemed that everything and everybody had to go through Petaluma to get where they were going. And they always brought along their money. To aid people with their financial needs, I.G. Wickersham opened the first bank in Petaluma on the corner of Washington and Main Street, now Petaluma Boulevard, and that was in 1864. Now, as significant as these events were to our agricultural heritage, the development of a medium-sized wooden box actually decided the course Petaluma agriculture would take for the next half-century. This curious wooden box was a warm-air egg incubator perfected and marketed by Petaluma poultryman Lyman Bice in September of 1879. Up until that time, a mother hen could hatch out 10 to 15 chicks each spring, but that didn't allow a rancher to maintain a large flock of chickens year-round. However, with the incubator, you could get hundreds, even thousands of hatchlings at any time of the year, and get the finest bloodlines whether you wanted laying hens or meat birds. Hatcheries began springing up everywhere in town. At one time, we had 39 working hatcheries in and around Petaluma. Feed mills were working overtime. Drayage companies were putting on extra men to move chickens, eggs, and feed to market. Numbers like 7 million dozen eggs were coming out in newspaper and magazine articles about Petaluma. Entire trains were made up with nothing but Petaluma eggs, like this 58-car trainload of eggs bound for Argentina. It was truly a golden era because not only were chickens doing well, But dairy cows were also thriving here, where the temperatures are mild year-round, and the cool morning marine layer of fog extended the life of native grasses and helped keep supplemental feed bills down. Agriculture was bringing great wealth to Petaluma, as noted by the fine architecture we enjoy in our city today. The beautiful banks, the imposing blocks of iron front buildings with their intricate detailing, commercial buildings and retail shops of every description, and, of course, the magnificent residences that were built by world-famous architects for wealthy Petaluma families who had servants. We owe it all to the chickens, the cows, and, of course, the men and women and children who weren't afraid to take chances, make sacrifices, and work the long hours pursuing their goals. With such a rich agricultural heritage, people are now asking, was that it? Is it over? With traffic polluting the environment and houses encroaching into fertile farmland, cutting our usable acreage every day, people are wondering if agriculture has run the gamut in Petaluma. Not at all. The future of agriculture looks extremely bright. With diversification, we're experiencing a myriad employment opportunities in ag-driven industries. When most people think of Petaluma agriculture, they have visions of cows grazing in the lush green countryside, or farmers in the field chopping silage, perhaps preparing the ground for yet another crop, or maybe mowing hay on some picturesque hillside. But the fact is, agriculture today extends far beyond the farm and includes people in processing, sales, trucking, lab work, computers, genetics, waste management, maintenance, and the list goes on. Because marketing and production are so complex in today's world, it takes an untold number of people who are familiar with agriculture to support any successful ag venture. Here are just a few of the many career opportunities available in agriculture in Petaluma. As you might imagine, everything begins here on the farm. Our mild climate is perfect for raising dairy animals, beef cattle, sheep, poultry, grapes, vegetables, hay, and flowers. The primary jobs, of course, are raising and caring for the crops and livestock on a day-to-day basis. But there are numerous opportunities in the network of goods and services necessary to operate a farm. Jobs in feed mills, for example, or hardware and supply businesses. Equipment sales, service, and repair. Veterinary services and genetics, just to name a few. Beyond what we think of as traditional agriculture, we have many unique agribusinesses here in Petaluma, like oyster shell processing for animal feed and soil amendments. A sheep dairy which produces an exceptionally flavorful cheese preferred by many gourmet chefs. A mushroom farm that from microscopic spores provides the entire Bay Area with the finest quality mushrooms that money can buy. Flower farms which not only provide fresh-cut flowers for any occasion, but also make ingenious dried flower arrangements for designer homes and offices. We're heavily into aquaculture in an attempt to lend Mother Nature a helping hand. There are literally thousands of jobs in processing, assembly line work, quality control, and lab technicians who make sure the products adhere to strict industry standards, chemists and biologists who do ongoing research, developing new products and improving existing ones, maintenance people who are skilled in electronics, mechanics, fabricating, and welding to keep the sophisticated equipment operating at peak efficiency, waste management and sanitation engineers who are able to keep their companies within the parameters of more and stricter government regulations. Which brings to mind employment opportunities in the political, public service, and regulatory segments of agriculture, like the UC Cooperative Extension Service, or the Department of Water Resources, Fish and Game Department, Agriculture Commissioner's Office, and the Farm Bureau. Today's agriculture has spawned a group of professionals who specialize in agricultural services like ag finance or ag insurance, ag real estate, agriculture law, and ag accounting. Other specialized fields include ag aeronautics for planting, insect control, and aerial mapping, genetics, where embryo transplants and gene splicing are now common practice in improving livestock and plant production. Computer programmers who design and write programs for operations large and small are in great demand. And with technology like the internet, national and international markets can be accessed without ever leaving your home or office. Getting products to the consumer is an entire industry unto itself. Whether shipping and distribution is done by truck, train, boat, plane, or a combination of them all. It requires drivers, engineers, pilots, dispatchers, mechanics, parts and fuel specialists, order takers, product coordinators, route managers, warehousemen, inventory supervisors, special equipment operators, and a host of support personnel. Marketing ag products offers careers in advertising, journalism, video production, television, product demonstrations, tourism, tasting room and gift shop management, sales and public relations representatives, including such diverse fields as directing auction yard operations or managing agricultural fairs and expositions. This is just a small sample of the career opportunities available in agriculture. As you can see, agriculture represents one of the fastest growing employment sectors in the world today. You have the opportunity to participate in local, national, or even international agribusiness in ways you never dreamed possible, and all without ever leaving Petaluma. Agriculture extends far beyond the farm, and it touches all of us in many different ways. Like the early agricultural pioneers, you now hold the key to the way agriculture will shape our lives and our city in the future.